welcome back to the channel, and to this, the first one in a while, lore video, going back to the original races and everything, and we have an interesting one, and one that I have been mentioning for quite a while, and I was umming and ahhing how to do it, and the decision is it's going to be a two-parter, because there's one specific point and a little sort of setup and teaser, which I'm going to do today, and then the main video will come out, or will be done potentially tomorrow, maybe beyond that. But we are here to talk about the Half-Ogres. Specifically, a bit which I have just noticed is actually not ideally on the map. So if I just drift that across like that, and then thankfully I have the map as a background, so we're using it like that. So what I'm going to do is, that's the wrong thing. I'm going to just try and, sorry, it's a bit wavy. So this is the, obviously on the other side of the map you can see a little bit of it, but this is the main lands of the Half-Ogres, the Principality of Medeiros and the Realm of Zakenraw. Now, the baseline factor about the Half-Ogres is they were created alongside the Ogres and the Goblins by Nagrasak, but theirs is a bit different, as they were really the only ones who developed outside of Shah. They were able to relatively keep themselves to themselves on Archivris, although there were a few unfortunate run-ins when Nagrasak betrayed, and some of them did get caught in that. Hence why some of them end up joining the Free Riders heading up to Arasin with the Steppe tribes. But the actual focus on both Zakenraw and Medeiros will come in the next video. Today there is a specific part, and this is also going to serve as a conjecture into a new sort of mini lore series, and it is the Marack Wardens. And I'm going to try and bring the map a bit closer in again to try and get a clearer showing. It is the territory right on the border between Zakenraw and Medeiros, the one that falls right of Gen Illic, which is the capital sort of region of Medeiros. The Marack Wardens are their actual focus is that they are initially they were a semi-autonomous order, but later on they actually get assimilated back into Zakenraw. But their whole main focus, and that's also tied to Medeiros having affiliations with Sinetvia and having connections there with the Cult of the Corruptor and Gallicaros and everything, so the Zakenraw do push in and sort of take Marack back onto their side. But they were an autonomous order initially, and they claim to be an order of monks. But if anything, they are warrior monks. They had a very simple task, and it was to protect that land bridge. One of the only land bridges connecting the Half-Ogre lands, in fact the only one directly connecting the Half-Ogre lands to Nacerez and the realms of the First Demons. And it was a region that for ages Medeiros and Zakenraw worked together to guard, but when new threats started emerging and new presences on their southern borders, like the Sea Elves and Hedotelic and all of that started popping up whilst they were developing, they had other focuses. So the Marack Wardens' actual story starts off, and we are actually going to have to go over to the other side of the map for this, but their origin lies actually with the initial founding of the Arnavan colony. A colony of trolls that I have gone, if you go back a few videos to the troll video, I mentioned that they've lost contact with them, and that happened when the formation of the Ruby Mist occurred, and all of that chaos. But the whole aspect behind it is that one of the first founders of the Arnovan colony was obviously a troll, but it was specifically a troll enchanter, warrior enchanter, in fact. Now, the trolls hate magic. They can still use it, but they thoroughly dislike it, and which makes almost any sort of troll who becomes an enchanter an outcast in society for them. So, this specific character, he had been studying in the Narracon Enhir within the realm of Daranzal, up in the north there, the land of the Dragons. And then he got tasked as to be one of the first to actually travel over to the Arnovan colony, a way to make use of him whilst also getting rid of him, basically. Only he disappeared, and he was not seen for many, many years. And the interesting aspect of him is that he was a Feldspar warrior enchanter, so one very powerful, very useful, especially in those kind of territories. So for him to go missing was incredibly detrimental. And the colonists weren't in a strong enough position and feared the first demons too much to venture too far into their lands. And he just remained unseen for so many years until a rogue group of the Half-Ogres who had ventured into Nacerez, and I will go into more context about them in the full-blown Half-Ogre video. They were on their last legs in the territory just below those two clumps of hills. They were getting assaulted after first demon wave over and over again. They were wheeling down, running low on everything. And then he appeared, and this is years later. He was cloaked. He had the heads of 3 different demon tribe leaders, or chiefs if they want, on his person, essentially. And his weapon was one that was quite different. It was a flail that had clearly been enchanted with emerald. Emerald, for the focus again, is the magic of Aphalas that focuses on empowering or withering materials, depending on which way, whether it be weapons or armor or any of these sort of things. And it's not known where he found this weapon. He didn't have it on his person when he initially started out. In fact, the weapons that he did have when he started out were completely missing from his person. And obviously the Arnovan colony do not know about this appearance. But not only was the flail classed in a sort of emerald type colour, it also had the corruptive flame of one of the fire pits within it. As in, it was a flail on fire, basically. Best way I can describe that is essentially Benjamin Stark with what he shows up in later on. And essentially, this troll uses his Feldspar magic to reignite the flame, only obviously with actual fire, not the corruptive flames. But he came in, he overpowered the first demons, drove them off. The sides of the tribal leaders did strike some fear into them, which is a first, because not many people could do that to the first demons. And he rescued them. And each of these warriors had been scarred, each of these people had been fighting for a long time now, so they each had a different skill or warrior and everything. And he returned to Medeiros and Zaganthor, and this was a massive shock to them because a troll arrived from the north when the majority of trolls don't even live on Arceus. And he met with the leaders and discussed essentially taking over Marack's Inn, which at this point had been a point of border contention. And these survivors that were with him ended up forming the first of the Wardens. The Wardens would then go on to train monks, and very much like the goblins, they have a lot of unique kind of weaponry to them, but more in the design to actually take on the first demons instead of just random weapons from their own culture, which are also kind of thrown in there. So you have things like throwing weapons or some of the fire lances and things that they are able to, because the Half-Ogres have a bit of a history of trying to nab that stuff from on Arceus when they can, and it's much to their credit though, they are useful weapons against the demons. So, but yes, this was the Wardens then took hold and they became the chief protectors, and then it started up with a tier, and this is where the monk mentality comes in. Well, it's not really monk, it's more of like a brawler. Like, they train in all sorts of survival against the first demon, including going hand to hand with them, which is basically anything that doesn't have ogre blood in that would have an insanely, or troll blood would have an insanely tough time doing that. With the first demons, because they were very powerful, but their charge and they have a constant rotational watch over the land bridge. But then they also form a semi-autonomous sort of area, so nobody can cross that bridge or even cross over their territory without their permission. The exception being basically trade. That's pretty much the only exception. And they keep their focus, they keep their attention on their goal and their target. In terms of powerhouse, and by the time, and I do want to just establish this, by the time of the books, this troll has passed on. Like, the trolls don't have the biggest age span or lifespan in Aphalas, not by a long shot, so he has passed on. But he is still. There is some obvious. He's a newer character as well, I will admit that, so he's going to have some more fleshing out, but at the exact same time, there is other stuff that I want to keep mysterious for a while, especially that flail. Because, again, nobody knows where he got it from. It was clearly from another enchanter, or a warrior enchanter of some description. But who and how and why, nobody really knows. And sometimes these things are better left unanswered so the mind can wander. But in terms of the grand scheme of conflicts and everything, the Marack's and Wardens pretty much keep out of all of it. And that's what differs them to others. The Temple Guard of Galeria, the Oasis Defenders on Idros, these are elite guardians who do step in when the crisis is calling and everything. The Marack's and Wardens do not. But again, like a lot of things on Arceus, you have what's going on the rest of Aphalas, then you have what's going on Arceus, and then you also have what's going on in Arisen. And after the Ruby Mist and the Aphalas barrier, those two continents just became pretty much like different worlds. Like, so little contact and things. But the Wardens of it, due to proximity, do also have some limited contact with Hedotelic, with the ogres, and they do have contact with the Sea Elves. The Sea Elves transport some goods for them to just keep them supplied. So whilst the Half-Ogres, both the factions have an agreement, and despite squabbles, they do try to keep to the agreement where they will supply weapons and troops and all of that. The Sea Elves supply supplies, basically. And they are a very interesting sort of order because they're fighters. They are veterans. They are fighters, and they are very willing. And they have had several incidents where they have been attacked by the first demons, and then there are other cases as well where the first demons have tried to go after Medeiros primarily through the other avenue because they can't really get to second floor without the wyverns knowing. So there have been times where the wardens have had to warn, because they do have scouts that they do detach into Nasa Res to gather information as much as they can. But it's limited and is careful, and it tends to stick closer to the coastline, so that at the end of the day, if they really did need to, they could just jump in the river and escape. Because there, despite the north of Onokevris having plateaus and everything, the south's not highland or anything like that. It's quite lowland. You're going to ignore what I just said there. It's low ground, effectively, and yeah, I wanted to give the Wardens their own video because I actually started working on just the details for the Half-Ogre video with the full intention of filling it, and I ended up just typing about the Wardens. Like, I was typing and just chatting about them non-stop, and it's like, I kind of need to go into one of the other factions, so I think they were, albeit a smaller video, it was, I think, worthwhile of having these little extra footnotes. Maybe that's a point. Maybe I would make it like that. Aphalas footnotes. Marack's in Wardens, the Temple Guard of Galeria, who I still have not done a video on. The Oasis Defenders, and then others as well. Like you've got the Amethyst Guardians as well. Now, but I think that is the main just case of affairs in that. And in terms of the whole world developing and everything, the Half-Ogres are still a newer race and everything, so they don't have as much development, and they haven't had a story focus yet, so these things will come with time as well. But when I envision the Wardens, I envision them in three different styles. I envision the Brawler, who sort of does like a monk kind of based combat. I can envision them having a specific defender line with pretty large, broadening shields with like spears or things like that. And then I can imagine another that just is the pure veterans, where they just have this random ensemble of weapons, almost like a mini mercenary company or something. And whilst the troll does pass on, that flail does remain. And one thing that I did also forget to note about him is that it is pretty certain that either he had a very close call with a fire pit or he had an encounter with a wyvern, because his face is so scarred afterwards that he does have to wear a mask. Or, not a mask, but he has a scarf like that he protects. And also one of his horns is actually missing. So there's a lot to unpack there with that character, and it could be very interesting. But anyway, it was just a slightly smaller lore video than the others, but again, these will be smaller, more compact stories. It's giving background of specific orders and things like that. So I think the next one has to be the Temple Guard of Galeria. They have waited long enough. So that will be exciting, but between that we will have the Half-Ogre video, and I am trying to get out the next battle depiction video. hit a bit of a road bump with that in the basically in the AI being a bit nitwitty on Divide and Conquer, so having to redo that. But it's fair enough, I can redo it, it's not a big deal. So, until next time, welcome to the Kingdom of Aphalas and the world of Felomine books. Do you want to note, again, please do check out the Ko-fi page in the description if you're intrigued. Aphalas Book 1 and 2 are available on the shop in both paperback and ebook. Well, actually, one is available in paperback. They're both available in ebook. Some printed first drafts are available of the second book in paperback, but they're only first drafts. So, but until next time, welcome to the Kingdom of Aphalas and the world of Felomine books. I shall see you later.